We are now coming to one of the most important passages of Scripture in the book of Isaiah that gives us the most details about the program of the first coming of the Messiah, with some implications about the second coming immediately following. And therefore, although this is only 15 verses long, from Isaiah 52:13 through 53:12, we are going to spend a lot of time on the detailing of this unique segment. It's co-equal with everything else Isaiah wrote, but it's uniquely important concerning the first coming of the Messiah. So there's no other passage in the Hebrew Scriptures that more clearly presents the substitutionary atoning death of the servant of Yahweh than this passage. It deals with his death, his burial, and his resurrection. And that is the servant of Yahweh in those three areas. Before presenting the verse-by-verse exposition of this section, a few preliminary observations are in order. So here's some introductory observations, the first of which is the prophetic setting behind it. And 2 points can be made regarding the prophetic setting of this section. First, Isaiah 52:13 through 53:12 contains a prophecy of the crucifixion and the burial and the resurrection of the servant, and all three elements are clearly revealed. Second, the actual prophetic setting of the passage is the period of the tribulation, and really towards the end of the tribulation. The reason to hold this view is that Isaiah 53 verses 1 through 9 provides a detailed prophecy regarding the closing days of the tribulation, as the passage spells out the national confession of Israel just prior to the second coming of the Messiah. When the time of his first coming was drawing to an end, Messiah said in Matthew chapter 23, verses 37 through 39, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, that kills the prophets and stones them that ascend unto her, how often would I have gathered your children together, even as a hen gathers her chickens under her wings, and ye would not. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. For I say unto you, ye shall not see me henceforth, till ye shall say, Blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord." The words of Isaiah 53 verses 1 through 9 are Israel's national confession. And Israel will someday exclaim, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord, and these words will bring about the Messiah's return, his second coming. Now, the second element is the conflict between rabbinic and messianic Jews on this passage. The major question that Isaiah 52:13 through 53:12 raises within Rabbinic Judaism is whether this section refers to an individual, namely the Messiah, or to the nation of Israel. The following quotation summarizes the modern Orthodox Jewish view. The servant is the ideal Israel, or the faithful remnant. That he is not an individual is the opinion of all Jewish and most modern non-Jewish commentators. Whatever causes may have tended to stimulate advocacy of this form of interpretation, that is Christological, it is important for Christian exegetes to recognize that this path of Jewish exposition is in the main right, and the path of Christian interpreters to the time of Rosenmuller, who wrote about 1820, has been in the main wrong. That's the end of the quote. How puzzling a problem this section actually is for Rabbinic Judaism is seen by the plethora of commentaries and books that have been published about this. One of them is an anthology titled The 53rd Chapter of Isaiah According to Jewish Interpreters. In this 574-page book, the biblical scholar Samuel Rolles Driver, living between 1846 and 1914, and the well-known librarian and Professor Adolf Neuberger, who lived between 1831 and 1907, undertook the task of translating and editing a complete set of Jewish commentaries on this remarkable section of Isaiah. Several examples of these rabbinic writings are provided in Appendix number 5 in your textbook, so be sure to take the time to read it. Eitan Bar, an Israeli Messianic believer, explains the historical consequences of the dilemma the rabbis faced in light of this Isaiah passage. The 17th century, this is a quote, the 17th century Jewish historian Raphael Levy admitted that long ago the rabbis used to read Isaiah 53 in synagogues, but after the chapter caused arguments and great confusion, the rabbis decided that the simplest thing would be to just take the prophecy out of the Haftarah readings in synagogues. That's why today when Isaiah 52 is read, the reader stops in the middle of the chapter, and the week after skips straight to Isaiah 54. End of quote. The majority of rabbinic interpretations today make Isaiah 52-53 a reference to the nation of Israel suffering in a Gentile world. However, the context shows that this simply cannot be so. It shows that the servant has to be an individual personality. 9 points can be listed that support this view and refute the rabbinic interpretation. The first supporting point comes from rabbinic tradition itself. Up until the year 1050 AD, all ancient rabbis took the position that the section is speaking of an individual, and the vast majority of Jewish scholars applied the verses to Messiah, son of Joseph. Rashi, whose years are 1040 to 1105, one of the most famous rabbis in the Jewish world, was the first to propound the idea that the section refers to suffering Israel. He was opposed in his day by the majority of the rabbis, including Moses Maimonides, known as the Rambam. Maimonides said that Rashi was deviating from the truth because he was going contrary to the teachings of the rabbis of the past 10 or 11 centuries. In the beginning, only one of Rashi's sons-in-law followed his teaching. As time progressed, the new position began to hold sway, and more sages painted the rabbi in the most grandiose terms. As Eric Lowley, professor of Bible at the Israeli Bar Ilan University, put it, Rashi was called a great light, unequaled in its brightness to the eye. He was an extremely prolific writer. Soon the consensus in the Jewish community was that since his works began to spread throughout Europe, there's not appeared anything comparable in the whole world by any eminence or rabbi. Meir Gruber, professor emeritus in the Department of Bible Archaeology and Ancient Near Eastern Studies at Ben-Gurion University in Israel, describes the importance of Rashi's commentary on the Talmud by stating, "This work made possible the Babylonian Talmuds serving as the central object of study in Jewish higher education for almost 9 centuries after the death of its author." Indeed, Rabbinic Judaism, Rashi's commentaries on both the Tanakh and Talmud have become almost inseparable from the texts themselves, and his work has been accepted by Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jews alike. To this day, Rashi's writings serve Orthodox Judaism as the final word on just about any subject matter. Hence, most Orthodox rabbis hold to Rashi's view of Isaiah 52:13 through 53:12. However, it needs to be understood that Rashi's viewpoint does not reflect the traditional Jewish teaching. The traditional Jewish viewpoint is that this passage is messianic, not national. The second support that this passage cannot refer to the nation of Israel is the use of the distinctive pronouns. There is a contrast made between the plural we, our, and us, and the singular he, him, and his. If Israel were the suffering servant, then the plural pronouns would have to refer to the Gentile nations. The problem with this view is that Isaiah was speaking, he was a Jew, and his audience was Jewish. He was not addressing Gentiles. Rather, he was identifying himself with his own people, which is why he used the plural pronouns we, our, and us. They refer to Israel.
The full length of this particular video presentation is 1 hour and 44 minutes. This brief sample should help to demonstrate the depth and quality of these teachings and recordings. There are 40 video lectures, over 30 hours of teaching content for this course, The Book of Isaiah, taught from a Messianic Jewish perspective. To order this or another online course, visit us at www.arielcollege.com.